All right guys, welcome back for episode 2 of the Arctic Leopard XF build off. Today we're going to be covering the all new highly anticipated fork upgrade for the Arctic Leopard XF. Here we have the Hawk 36 Max Plus from RFloxa. This is a 775 millimeter fork, 225 millimeters of travel, bronze coated tubes, DLC coated stanchions, CNC triple clamp, high and low speed compression adjustment, rebound adjustment, and preload adjustment. So this is going to be an awesome fork to put on this bike. I know a lot of people have been asking about what upgrades they can do for suspension on these XF. Here is the first ever from RFloxa. So follow along as we do a quick tutorial on how to remove the old fork and install the new fork on this XF. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is have your bike on some sort of stand. From here we're going to go ahead and remove the bar mount from the flat crown on this OEM fork. By removing the bar mount, we'll have access to pull this top crown off. From there we can slide the fork out from the head tube through the bottom. Alright, so the next step in the process, once the bars have been detached, is remove the front wheel. This will free up the fork and allow us to drop the fork legs. Alright, to remove the front wheel, we're going to go ahead and take our 5mm hex head and our 8mm hex head. First, we'll start by removing the axle cap on one side with the 8mm. Now we'll go ahead and loosen the pinch bolts on the axle here with our 5mm. You don't have to remove these all the way, just turn them back a few turns so that the axle is released from the clamps. Now your front wheel's free. With the front wheel off, I'm going to go ahead and move up to the number plate. I'm going to go ahead and cut these zip ties and remove the number plate so we can get access to the fork. So with the number plate removed, we now can get access to our triple clamp bolts here, both top and bottom. I'll go ahead and just remove one fork leg at a time by loosening these screws. Once again, you don't have to completely remove, just back them out enough. So with these 3 screws loosened up, we can go ahead and slide this down enough that it releases from the top portion of the triple clamp. Once it's below that, we can remove the triple clamp once both sides has been dropped, and then the whole fork assembly will drop through the bottom of the head tube once we get this top plate off. So I'll go ahead and match the same process on the other side, loosening all 3 screws. Alright, so once we've slid down the fork tubes to free from the top bracket of the triple clamp, we're going to go ahead and remove the brake caliper from the fork bracket. We'll also need to remove the brake line from We'll also need to remove the brake line from the fork guard bracket, as well as the holder here up higher on the fork tube. This will completely free the brake assembly from the fork and allow us to drop it out without anything being stuck. Alright, so now our entire brake assembly is free of the fork, and we can remove the top plate of the triple clamp and get the fork dropped out. So from here, go ahead and loosen up this top cap with your 8mm. You're going to want to hold the fork, make sure that it doesn't drop, and you release that. At this point, everything is loose. We're able to completely remove that stock fork. Alright, so with the OEM fork removed, we're going to go ahead and keep the dust seal and the top bearing from the OEM fork in place. There will be a new bearing and a new seal on the RFloxa for the bottom. You do not need this ring for the XF application, so go ahead and remove that. From here we can go ahead and get the fork up into place. So slide it through, making sure your bearings and everything stay seated the best you can. Once again, a little hard to do with one person, but it is possible. All right, so before we place the top portion of the triple clamp on, we're going to want to make sure that all of our wires are routed through the fork as they should. If you put the triple clamp top on, it'll be virtually impossible to get those on later. So we've got all of our wires on either side where they should be. Let's go ahead and place our top triple clamp onto the fork legs. From here you can go ahead and thread the top cap back on. This will keep the fork from trying to slide back through. Alright, so before we tighten any of our triple clamp bolts, we're going to go ahead and torque our top cap. Manufacturer recommendation is between 12 and 13 Newton meters. Got that tightened down. Now we can go ahead and use our 5mm again to torque down the fork tube. Before these bolts, we're going to go ahead and torque them to 12 to 13 Newton meters. That is printed here on the triple clamp flat crown, which is pretty cool of RFloxa to do. Just helps make sure you're keeping everything torqued to spec. Alright, so now that we've got the top clamp torqued to spec, we can go ahead and put our bars back on. So for this, we're going to go ahead and put the headlight bracket down first, and then line up the holes on our bar mount. Let everything goes together seamlessly. We'll drop the screws back in. Alright, so with the handlebars mounted back up onto the top triple clamp, you can go ahead and install the front wheel. So we'll first start by putting some grease on your front axle here. A little bit goes a long way, just helps not make too much of a mess. So you'll go ahead and just use the OEM wheel spacers from your XF. So go ahead and align the axle with the hub. Push everything through. Alright, and then go ahead and rethread the axle cap. We'll go ahead and snug down the axle cap with our 8mm. Give the wheel a good spin. Everything spins freely, wheels straight. From here we can go ahead and torque down our pinch bolts. I'll snug them down with a regular Allen and then torque them. Right here it's printed on the fork foot, 12 to 13 Newton meters again. Alright, so we'll go ahead and move to reinstalling our front brake here. So just make sure that your line is free of any twists. We'll go ahead and route the cable inside the fork leg. This just keeps this hose from getting caught on anything if you were to pass some twigs or branches, things like that while riding. So route it on the inside portion here, and then go ahead and reinstall the caliper using the OEM screws that we removed earlier. I like to tighten these down by hand first, as we're going to want to make sure that they're seated and aligned correctly. So don't tighten these too tight yet, just snug so that we can do that alignment process here in just 1 second. Alright, so to make sure that our brake is aligned correctly, we'll go ahead and spin the wheel and clamp the front brake a few times quickly. This just makes sure that the caliper and everything is in line with the disc perfectly. So once we've got that aligned, I'm going to keep holding the front brake lever while I tighten these caliper bolts down. Make sure that that caliper doesn't move at all. So once the caliper is tightened back down, we can go ahead and reinstall the brake line into the fork guard holder and this top clamp here. Last thing to do is reinstall the front fender and the number plate, and you're ready to ride. Continue to follow along as we produce more episodes on this bike over time. As more and more parts become available for the Arctic Leopard XF from aftermarket brands, we'll continue to build this bike out and provide you the content you're looking for.